Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the greatest person on our podcast, my wife, Linda. So many of you women in the comments have been dying to get her presence. So first, welcome, baby.
Thank you, thank you.
Everybody, isn't she so beautiful? Like, just look at her.
This is not the Mexican Inquisition, by the way.
Well,
this is just a
she is
conversation.
Mexican, but
Yes, I am.
how stunning does she
proudly.
look today?
Huh?
You look amazing.
All right, bro.
I
All
love
right,
you.
I understand.
We've been wanting to have you on for a while, and we finally made it happen. I think weeks ago we promised people, and they're like, "So when are you gonna have Linda? When are you gonna have Linda?" And all this different stuff. So
Linda was busy, very busy.
she was very busy.
Mom duties.
So
And
we're
work
gonna
duties.
dive right in. We're going to let the audience see a little bit into us of our story and how we got to meet each other. We were 16 years old. You just turned 32. I'm 31. So we've known each other for half of our lives. Isaac was 14. He was like a little midget at the time, but
Midget?
You were like 14, a little kid that would run around and just
Okay,
tease her.
my head to body ratio was a bit off, but I grew into it, okay?
So Linda and I met at a church on a church dance team, and Isaac would always run around and tease her.
Yeah, scared the crap
I
out
don't
of
know
her.
if you liked her before I did.
I had a crush on everyone, okay?
Well, her sister you
That
liked.
is true.
Yeah, I mean, how old was I? 14?
You're 14.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
everything dropped at the right time.
He would just hide behind doors and like just objects, and then he would pop out of nowhere.
I just like beautiful
And-
people. What can I say?
Aw, you think my wife is pretty?
The funniest thing though is that that's how I remember you. That's exactly how I remember
That's
you.
literally as a 14-year-old kid.
Just popping out of nowhere just to scream.
Can you imagine if I had the facial hair I did then now?
Then you would look like a dwarf.
I would look crazy.
So our relationship has been interesting. We became best friends right away.
Yep.
Within 6 months, when I turned 17, I was head over heels in love with you. And I texted you one time and I said, Linda, we need to have the talk. And she was
You
like,
did?
"Oh, you didn't know that?"
No. That's fantastic.
I was like, "We need to have the
did.
talk." And you were like, "Wait, what?"
It sounded so ominous. Like saying, can you imagine telling someone we need to talk or
At
we need to have
17?
that
I
talk?
never had a relationship before.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you were a baby.
That was like terrifying. I was like,
Well, then
That's
shortly after that, again, I'm a words of affirmation person. And for an entire year, every single night before we went to sleep, I said, "I love you" through text. And what was it that you said in response?
thank you.
You said thank you every
Gracias.
single time. Every single time.
Can you
said,
imagine, though, in today's modern dating, if a guy who was interested in love with a girl would tell her every night he loved her?
or pursue her for 2 years and not.
Or text her and say, we have to have a talk? You know how freaked out modern women would be by that?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Well, the thing is that, we had been friends for a while and I had never been in love either. So I didn't know kind of how I felt about him yet in that way. Like,
Yeah.
I loved you because you were my best friend,
Yeah.
but I hadn't thought of you that way. When I was starting to kind of think of you that way, you were like, I love you.
He did. I can attest to this.
Whoa.
Well, I remember there were several times when, throughout those 2 years of pursuing you, that you would tell me I shouldn't have a smile on my face because, and I'd be like, "What?" And you'd be like, "I shouldn't have a smile on my face." And later that night we would talk on the phone and you would just tell me I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
That I was way more in love with you and I was like your best friend and you didn't want to lose me, but you just weren't there.
I just didn't want to lead you on. Like, I understand that some people sometimes go like, "Oh, let's see where this goes." Like, "Oh, I'll give you a chance because you like me a lot. Let's see what." And I was not willing to do that with you because I really cared about you. And so it was really painful, but I had to be honest with you and I had to tell you I'm not there yet. And I even told you if you had to stay away from me for a while for you to feel better about the fact that I wasn't there yet, that I was letting you go, as painful as that was. But that's the reason why when you would say I love you to me, I didn't know what else to say because I knew that I wasn't there.
But the moment you finally told me you loved me, I was like, it was one of these nights I was texting you and I was like, okay, I'm going to send my random text of I love you. And you were like, you too or something. And I was like, wait, what? And you're like, I love you too, silly. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. And then
for all of you third wheelers out there, let me tell you something. There is hope. I was that way for years. Okay. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed to go to the movies with your friends because there's always hope. You might find your wife. Hope. You might find your husband.
That is true.
It was so true, though. But you were actually the first one to kiss me.
Yes, I did.
Before we were officially dating,
Sappy.
she actually kissed me first.
Yes, I did.
And then I was so thrown back.
Yeah,
I was like,
women.
again,
Modern women empowerment.
This was our
kissing first.
This was actually our first kiss, though, of either of us, of anybody.
Wow.
Yeah,
you know how rare that is?
I'd never kissed anybody before.
You know, my first kiss?
Like an actual real kiss.
A real, yeah, like when you're 12. It was
Do you know my first kiss was a
DMV?
I was in line at the DMV.
What kind of DMV
this one guy was in line and he had this crazy amount of confidence and he's like, have you met my friend? And I was like, and I was in a bad place.
I was in a bad
place. Never ever lose your kiss after you had a bottle of wine. Just say that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But then after that, we started dating 4 months later, officially. And then throughout the next few years, we had our ups and downs. There was times I wanted to walk away and you didn't. You just were like, no, like we've worked so hard on this that you would show up where I was working and you surprised me. We've gone through a lot of different ups and downs. But I want to kind of delve into why did you choose me? And again, don't hype me up. You don't have to make me sound like the macho man that sometimes I feel like I am.
Sometimes.
But why did you choose? Why did you actually fall in love with me though? And these are for the women out there because I know you love romantic and some stuff like that. But
so a lot of what the culture tells you is that you should never be a girl's friend or she's gonna friend zone you. The moment you get friend zoned, you're done. Yeah. You cannot be her friend because then she's not going to want you. And the problem with that culture is that it teaches women that the guy that it teaches both of them. It teaches men that one, they shouldn't be a companion to women. They shouldn't be friends to women. They shouldn't want to have that connection, that emotional connection that makes them reliable, that makes them trustworthy to women, because then they will fall into the friend zone. And then on the other hand, you have girls really, because, when you're young, you're just stupid and you don't really go for the right choices because you believe in this culture of, oh, you need to go for that mysterious brooding guy who like never talks to you, and and it's like like the whole like Edward Bella type relationship.
Toxic.
But yeah, it's so toxic, but I'll talk about that later. But what separated you? Well, first of all, I'm a quality time person, so I was always a person. Fellas, you'll be surprised. I was always the girl that had the biggest crush on my best friend because we were best friends, because we spent, good time together. We grew in trust. We grew in friendship. I felt like I could tell you everything. You understood me. Like we had such an amazing friendship. We nerded about the same things, movies and games and stuff. And it was so funny because when I met David, he would walk around with this Rubik's cubes.
I was such a nerd.
He loved Rubik's cubes.
Still can solve one, by the way.
He would wear this like big leather jacket, and he was like he's always been as tall as he is now, but he was a lot skinnier then. And he would wear this huge leather jacket, and he would have these Rubik's cubes in his pockets. So his pockets would be like all bulging. He had like the 3x3s and the 5x5s, and he was like so excited to try to show me how to solve them. And it's like he thought he was like so smart.
On your first birthday after we became friends, what did I get you for your birthday?
My 17th birthday.
The first gift I ever bought for you.
He got me my very own Rubik's Cube.
Do you still have it?
Yes,
yes, we do.
Wow.
I have everything he's ever given me.
Generational legacy, baby. You just hand that stuff down.
But going back to the whole friends, thing, what made me take a while in getting there with you is that, one, I had never been in love before. Like I had crushes, as everybody has, but the action of being in love, like actually head over heels, like I had never experienced that before. And I was so scared of losing you because I knew I wasn't there yet. And what's interesting is that at the time, I actually liked a different guy that I would see more than I would see you.
You did.
So it was a whole quality time at play, when I was in high school. But you were such a constant friend who just would listen to me, beyond what anyone could expect. And you genuinely care about the things that I cared about. And you never had beyond further expectations from me, even though you were in love with me at the time. You would never pressure me in a way before you did the whole talk thing. It wasn't something that you were expecting that you were expecting that of me.
Yeah.
But what set you apart from any other guy that I ever had a crush on is that you were the most intentional person I have ever met. As in, something that you wanted, you fought for it. And I remember at the time, he was so smooth. He would detail and clean the cars for my family. He would find ways
for free
to hang out with my family, with my siblings, with me.
I would say, hey, I can cook you guys dinner.
Yeah, I can cook you guys dinner. And he's my best friend, right? So why not? And he would just, come over and cook. And obviously my parents knew this guy, this guy wants something else. But, he was there and he'd be detailing my dad's car and just basically adding brownie points to the thing. But the thing is he knew that I wasn't there yet. The fear of being rejected, you still put yourself out there and you still tried to pursue me because you saw value in me. And the guy that I liked at the time never said anything to me. Not once.
Tell women how you feel, man.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest mistakes guys make nowadays is, what do they expect from a relationship? With me, the reason why I pursued you for 2 years, again, I was younger. So if guys are in their 30s, I understand that spending 2 to 3 years and it might not working out can have big consequences. Right. But I was looking for a wife. And the idea of not being with you was so much more painful than going through that time of pursuing you. And so I did everything in my power because I was like, you're it for me. I don't want to have to pursue some other girl. And I think in today's culture with the swipe culture and with Tinder, Bumble, all these other sites.
You have no idea.
I can't imagine. I literally looked at you the other night when we were sleeping and I said, I don't know what I would do if I had to date today.
I don't know what I would
Welcome
do.
to my life.
I literally don't know. I feel for you, Isaac. I don't know what I would do because all I've known, this March will be 10 years we've been married. We got married when we were 22. And people look at our story and it's oh, it's like a fairy tale. In many ways it was, but we had to fight for it.
We did.
It wasn't something easy. We fought for years for each other's heart. There were times that I went away and I started having a crush on somebody else, and you would just show up to my work.
Not when we were married. He's talking when
this
we
is
were.
when we were not when we were married. When we
Context is very important.
when we were pursuing each other.
This is when we were fully dating.
This is pre-ID.
Pre-ID. Yeah, and you fought for my heart. You would show up to my work and be like, hey, let's go out to lunch. And you would just doll yourself up, and I would just look at you and I'd be like, oh my gosh.
Whoa.
And then boom,
you better,
I was born.
You better.
Look at you. Look at her. She's freaking hot. She's freaking beautiful.
He's like, okay.
Get it.
So the last thing I want to talk about in our relationship, then we want to bring the single guy into this more.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Is in our day and age, there's something that is now a statement people use of men need to be high value. They think of high value men as men that have a lot of money and are successful so that then they have something to offer a woman. In our day and age, or at least for us in our relationship, when we got married, people, I want you to understand something. I had recently been laid off from work. I had no job and $200 in my bank account. We had one of our parents co-sign our first apartment for us. And we decided to start a business, but we had nothing to own. And yet there's times I would have panic attacks. I'd be freaking out and I'm like, I don't know how we're going to survive. And what was that like for you? Because I wasn't a traditional high value man at that time. I had nothing to offer you except my love.
My love. Well, I think that, again, going back to how we met and how we got to, being married, I think what solidified for me that you were it for me was that solid friendship we had, because I got to know you. I got to see the man that you were. And before we reached the point where, you were laid off or whatever, any of that, I got to see the teenager you. I got to, basically grow up with you in some form. And I got to see the man you became, because I remember, when we were, 16, 17 or so, we were both so mature. It was so funny and hilarious, the changes that we went through. But the man that you became was the man that I fell in love with. And because you were someone who was so intentional and who, despite being afraid, you would go after what you wanted. Like, I said no to you a few times, and you were still present because you saw value. And hey, I want this person. And despite the fact that at the time I wasn't, the beginning I wasn't there, your consistency, you just had such a beautiful soul. And you were somebody that I could really connect with in a way that I never connected with any other guy. And the guys that I liked, or even the guy that I liked, I knew he liked me. You can always tell when someone liked, but he was afraid of saying anything.
Yeah.
And while he was deciding whether he was going to say something or not, Mr. David Wilson over there was like, I know what I want. And you kept pursuing me in a way that it was impossible to ignore you. And so because I got to know you, when we reached the point where, you had no money and we didn't know what we were going to do or whatever, you know what's interesting? That was the least of my worries.
You literally told me, this was a couple of months after we got married.
Yeah.
We drove home from somewhere. Again, I had almost nothing in my bank account. And I started having a small panic attack. It was one of the few times in my life I've had that. And I was like freaking out, like, what are we going to do? And I remember...
Wasn't that around the time that someone stole one of your lenses from school?
Yeah, that was a similar time as well.
Like on top of losing your job,
I had to
someone
come up with
stole
$3,000.
one of lenses that he had used for school, and he had to come up with money to pay
But
for
I
it.
remember you looking at me in that moment, and you said, babe, we could be homeless, and I know that me and you are going to figure it out.
Yeah.
That I'm with you till the end. That this isn't just what can we offer each other independently. It is what can we accomplish together. We are better together than we are apart. And that, as a man, lifted me, because I was like, I feel like a failure as a man because I couldn't provide for you. I had nothing to offer you. And when you looked at me and said, we could be homeless, but I know as long as we're together, we'll be able to figure it out. And so, man, I'm going to challenge you. Like, one of the most important things to look for in a woman when you want that spouse, again, you have to be prepared yourself, is to choose somebody that is ride or die and isn't all about the money that you have, because money's going to come, money's going to go. If you become bankrupt, if you have a lot of money, are you going to leave? That's not the point of it. And that's why this whole high value man, I'm all about becoming as much of a high value man you can, but that can't be the thing that defines your relationship.
Yeah, like money will always be important for survival. Of course, you're gonna need to provide for your family, for your home. You need to pay your rent. You can't be homeless.
Exactly.
You have to have a job. You have to have aspirations, and you have to be driven. Want more from life than just typical the minimum wage or whatever. But if that is the only basis of your relationship, like, oh, she should want me because I make money, that's not gonna last. If money is the way you value yourself as a man, you're gonna suffer a lot, because you're gonna think that a woman wants you for you, but you're only trying to offer her something that can be taken away.
Yeah.
And so I think that the difference here, again, going back to what we were saying, is I got to know you, the real you. And I learned to see the treasure in who you were and the amazing friendship we had. And I got to see the David that would go after things despite rejection, despite of being afraid. You are so determined to, like, I am a testimony of your resilience and your determination despite being afraid, that you put yourself out there and got what you wanted. And this is why when we experienced that setback, it didn't mean anything to me, because I got to see the real you. So even though you were going through a phase where you didn't know what to do and you were having these panic attacks and you felt like as a man you were failing me or whatever, like, I wasn't worried because I knew the real you. And that's what made a difference for me.
I love you so much.
I love you.
Single guy. Do you have anything to ask this amazing woman?
Well, before I do that, I want to, agree with her sentiment of what she said, because in today's culture, specifically modern dating, a lot of men struggle with materialism as a form of an offering to women as a sole objectification of who they are. And men are struggling with that because it's constantly being shoved down their throats that in order for me to have a amazing, strong, passionate woman who has character and integrity, I have to have this much in my bank account. Like that's the only prerequisite. When ultimately what women are looking for is they're looking for a man of integrity and character that does not give up, that doesn't quit. No matter the circumstance, he's constantly doing personal development, making himself better every day, going and watching YouTube videos, learning a new skill, putting more time into his own driven and ambitious. So if you're driven and ambitious as a man and you don't give up, naturally the money will come, because money at the end of the day is just a tool. All of those things will fade away. And it's become backwards in society where men feel like they have to be a certain way financially in order to attract that woman. Yes, having money, having possessions will naturally attract that woman because she wants to feel protected. She wants to feel provided for. But that's not the only prerequisite. And unfortunately, that's become the standard, especially in the red pill space, where men are being taught by the Andrew Tates of the world or the Justin Wallers that the true form of masculine excellence is to have a Bugatti and a giant mansion and all of these things. But having integrity and character is the underlying foundation to all of that. And if you don't have that and all you do is sleep around and swipe, then you will attract a woman that will only want you for your money, and then she'll end up leaving you when you don't have it.
Well, it's going back to someone's essence. If who you are can be defined by what can be taken away from you, then you're just a shell of a person, because you put your identity and your value in something that wasn't yours at the beginning and that you obtained later. But, if the economy collapses or, your bank just shut down or someone stole your money, like if you're putting your value as a man or woman into what you do, because I think it goes back to the culture of, the culture tries to define women by their looks and define men by their performance. And this is why you have the whole, for women, it's always about what they look, what size they are, what curves they have, blah, 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 all the, beauty in their faces. And then with men is, do they make money and, size matters type thing. And so because it's all about, quote, performance, because going back to what, we understand that women, even though they can be swayed by a pretty guy, like a handsome man, in reality, what they will girls might be like, oh, he's so cute, but a woman is okay with going with someone who's not as attractive if the man has things or is someone whom she finds attractive.
Is that why you chose me? Because I was less attractive, but I had all the emotional things?
No, you were always cute from the beginning.
Oh, God have mercy.
Isaac, if you want to leave the room real quick.
It's funny. It's up to 40% of divorces in America are divorced just because of finances.
Yeah.
And it's going up. Divorce range has actually become higher in the church than it has in the world.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's a result of what is the foundation? I think that's the question I want to ask you, Linda, is what is the foundation for your marriage with David that has kept you guys throughout the years in the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly? What is that key cornerstone that you can impart to the listeners that has held you and kept you strong throughout your marriage almost 10 years now?
I would say number one is our faith. I don't think we'd be anywhere without God. That's,
agreed.
In the toughest time and the hardest, darkest time of our relationship, our lives, our struggles, God has been my closest friend. And I don't think I could be sitting here talking to y'all if it wasn't because of how much he sustained us through it, has helped us, healed us through so much that we've been through. The second one, obviously, as we've discussed, is our deep friendship. We just know each other so well. So well that we understand each other and we know what the other needs. And part of marriage and a relationship, and I think this is the reason why a lot of marriages fail, is the whole notion of the grass is greener somewhere else. no, the grass is green where you water it consistently.
Let's go.
And so the problem with people that have been together for so long is that sometimes they were like, well, there's nothing to know about each other. There's no mystery. But the truth is, we change as people. I'm not the same woman I was when I married you. It's going to be about 10 years in March. And I have I wouldn't say little, but I have very few in common with the person that you married, 10 years ago, because we've experienced so much change in our lives that have transformed us as people. So if you convince yourself that there's nothing new to learn about your spouse, then you are not only deceiving yourself, you're destroying your relationship because you're choosing to, not be intentional with your relationship and be complacent and be like, well, there's nothing to know. There's no mystery. I see them every day. The spark's gone. But what we understand from the science of, the sparkly love, head over heels feeling is that normally it lasts people about 2 years.
If that.
And outside of the 2 years, you have to make choices to keep yourself continuously
There's
in love.
times when we almost fell apart.
Yeah.
Like it seems like we've had this fairy tale marriage and everything, but there were times when you were almost ready to give up, or I was almost ready to give up. And those foundations you're talking about is so important because there's a saying as well that when you get a shiny new thing, say if it's a car, a house.
The shiny new toy syndrome.
Yeah, that feeling of, euphoric sensation of, oh my gosh, I got this new thing. It only lasts about 6 months.
Yeah.
It's very similar as well in a relationship, because the truth is when you're having sex as much as married people have, it's very easy.
If you're having sex at
Healthy
all.
marriages.
Healthy marriages. You stop looking at the other person with awe every time you see them. You see them walk through naked and it's like seeing yourself. I've said that. It's kind of true. You become, no, it's true.
I'm a very visual person. Thanks a lot, David.
See yourself
I truly hope that he doesn't see himself when I walk around.
Not literally, you know what I mean.
I mean, he would, but that's very expensive.
No, but if you don't, if you don't pursue your wife like you were pursuing them when you're dating, and I have failed with this so many times.
So I
admit, I don't pretend to be perfect. I will be very honest. For example, in our second year of marriage, I fell into crippling depression. I was so scared to even go through a McDonald's drive-thru. I know I wasn't supposed to be going through McDonald's, okay? All right, I know it because I knew you were going to say that. But I was terrified to go out in public. I was terrified of everything. So what did I do? I made a little bit amount of money, not enough to live, but a little bit amount of money with a part-time job, and then I would sit on the couch, watch Netflix, watch stuff I shouldn't have watched, and then also play video games. And that was all I did. And I put all the pressure on you to be able to make money for us to survive. All the pressure on you to take care of the house. We didn't have a kid yet, but clean, cook, go out there, get other jobs. How did that feel for you in those darkest times? And how did you actually keep us together? Because I give the glory to God and also want to thank you for that, because if it wasn't for you in that time of still believing in us, I don't think we would be where we were at. But how did it feel when your man didn't step up to the plate? Because this is very important for you, man, because if you decide to be in a relationship or decide to be married, this can destroy your marriage if you don't understand it and nip it in the butt. So what is something that helped you get through that? And how did it feel when I wasn't being a strong man?
Well, I call that year the year from hell, because that's what it felt like.
Eternal torture
For a whole year. I think I this, I spent more time crying in my closet than I did out that year. It was absolutely crippling. Because at the time, for the first, I would say maybe 8 months of that year, I didn't know what you were going through, because it wasn't something that I didn't know, because you wouldn't share with me. All I saw from you was you completely shut me out, and you were, gone in your bubble, and just watching shows all day and, going to your part-time here and there. But other than that, there was no conversation. There's this huge wall. And I felt like the David that I married was nowhere to be seen. And so that year, I felt I literally felt like you weren't there. Like I felt like you abandoned me. And even though you were there. And that's the weirdest, most painful experience to be so far away from someone while they're sitting next to you. And that year, my dad nicknamed me the 1,000 Jobs woman, because I just felt this pressure, this stress of, I have to take care of things because he won't. And so then I was babysitting. I became a medical interpreter. I was trying to grow a business on the side as well, with photography. And we were doing events, weddings and quinceañeras and stuff. And at the same time, we were trying to help my family with something they were going through. And so there was just so much that was going on, and so many things that I felt like were falling apart. And I didn't have my husband there to be there for me. And so that year was absolutely terrifying for me, because I stopped doing a lot of the things that I loved doing. Like, I used to draw and paint. It was one of my biggest passions, and it was something that I truly enjoyed. Writing. I used to write. I went to school for writing. And there was all these things that I loved doing that I put in the back burner because I had this guilt and this shame that I should be working. If I'm not working, we won't be able to pay the bills. If I sit down and draw, or if I sit down and write, that's time I could be spending trying to build a business or trying to get work somewhere. And so, go for it.
I feel like there's a lot of women out there that can relate, that are married right now, that are struggling with a husband not being present. I think what I learned from what you just said is proximity does not always mean connection.
They call them single married women.
Yeah. So just because you're married and your husband's physically there doesn't mean he's there.
Yeah.
And so what was your hope or light at the end of the tunnel in that year from hell that you experienced that got you through it?
Well,
or what was the end of that year? What was the story that the good focal point?
Well, the times that I spent crying in that closet every night, I would just pray to God, like, God, what is happening? Let him talk to me, like, break through to him. What is happening? Because again, I had the privilege of knowing him before any of this happened. So it wasn't like, oh, this is the David that I met when I married. No, like, I knew the real David, the healthy David, the go-getter David, the David that will go after things, that made me feel safe and that made me feel
start a podcast.
Not worried at all, when you had $200 to your name, because I knew the real David. So this is like a pod David, from the Body Snatchers, like
not the podcast David, but the pod David.
But the pod David. It's like this alien person that I don't know. So I just spent a lot of time. It was one of my biggest prayers, just like, wake him up, like, let him talk to me, let him open up to me. And what changed everything was when he finally did open up to me.
And I remember what I did too. I literally looked at you and I said, I don't trust you anymore.
Oh yeah, so because what happened is I confronted him finally.
Yeah,
I
was
tired of the radio silence, and not the non-conversation. Because when you don't communicate with your partner what you're going through, and you just shut them out, we're left to think all kinds of things. Like, I came up with all kinds of scenarios as to why you shut me out. And that is the worst place to be in, because you're just giving into your worst fears. And I had no clue. I wasn't prepared. Neither was I expecting it, what you were really going through. I legit thought he fell out of love from me. Like, he's just tired. This isn't what he signed up for. And like, I literally was thinking all kinds of things because you would not talk to me. So finally, when I confronted you, like, just talk to me. Like, what is happening? Tell me. That's when you just looked at me straight in the eye. And that was probably the worst night ever, because I just kind of broke down crying because I just don't trust you anymore. And
then, I saw how it broke you.
No, you didn't say anymore. You just said, I just don't trust you.
But then,
period.
It's the worst thing you can say.
But then after that, I saw it break you. And then from you crying, I started to cry. And you're like, just talk to me. And
I left you to go back into the closet to cry. My favorite place, I hear. And
so you came out of the closet?
I came out of the closet.
Okay.
as a new woman. So
Woman, okay, guys, woman. Don't get it twisted.
She's a woman.
yes, I am. So I just went in there to bawl again, and for the first time in 8, 9, almost 10 months, you went into the closet with me, and then you held me as I'm just like breaking down crying in there. And so then finally you told me, come out, I need to talk to you. So we went to the living room.
Yeah.
And that's when you opened up to me.
And then I remember I said to you, I'm just terrified of everything.
Yeah.
And this was actually, so I've cried 3 or 4 times in my life that I can remember, because I just
He's
don't
a
cry.
bottler.
I don't
Like,
cry. Like,
I
you
can
know,
count
manly
with my
man don't
hands
cry.
how many
But I
times
cried.
he's actually like
So I
cried.
started bawling my eyes, and I said, I'm just terrified of everything, babe. I don't know what to do, because I graduated college like 3 to 4 months earlier. So I've had that after college depression that a lot of people get, just not knowing what to do with my life. And
Very real.
Then I just, bawled and just let out all this emotion. And then from there, it was like, I was back. And we've gone through some other difficult stuff, but.
Well, I just wanted to point out, because, we hear the red pill movement and all these guys like, men don't cry. And like, you're supposed to be masculine and strong and always like, stoic. You meant me to be like, and the thing is though, it was your stoicness that was destroying me, because, and we can talk about the whole thing of, men need to be more emotional. It's not about being emotional. It's just about being honest, being open with what you're going through, because we're never going to be the same, but it's more about, if you have someone you trust, if you have that relationship, having the ability of being yourself with that person and being vulnerable and being honest is what creates that bridge, is what waters your grass.
Because there's a difference between vulnerability and always crying. Because we've even said on this channel that if I'm over the top emotional, where I see a hat fly in the sky and I'm like, oh, someone lost their hat. It's so sad. I shouldn't just come home every day
What does it mean?
and just unload on you, right?
Yeah.
Because then at that point, you're just having, there's certain things that us as men need to deal with. But when it comes to the crucial foundational things of going through crap, going through depression that, a lot of guys go through, being able to release and sometimes cry is a way to just give things finally up. It's a way to just kind of release. It shouldn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, it's not something to be like, oh, I'm not the man,
No, and that's the thing though. Like I've always said this to you, that I consider, the most beautiful thing when you cry, and not in a bad way, in the sense that when you do cry, because it's rare when you do,
very rare,
it's always something that heals you, because you're releasing all these things you've been carrying. And the thing is, when you finally told me what you were experiencing and the depression and the crippling fear and all this stuff, like, it didn't make me think of you like, some women do like, oh yeah, don't show me your weakness. Don't show women weakness, because I knew you.
And we trusted each other.
Because I trusted you. I understood you're going through something. This is real. And like, I never saw you as less. I literally started bawling out of almost like joy, because I finally could know what was going on, and I could finally connect with you.
So that's the key, is trust.
But also the insight behind this is, if at that time in your life, I think that one of the key contributors that I saw from the outside looking in as your brother was isolation. So men, if they isolate and they don't have brothers in their life, that you didn't, it would have been a lot easier to get through that if you had brothers surrounding you.
I was by myself
and men
all the time.
that were your brothers said, hey, like, let's go out and grab a drink, or let's go out into the wilderness for like a weekend at a cabin, and like, let's talk it out. Let's sit around a fire as men and like open up and share about our lives, because if you don't have that, then that is where the fear comes from. And the isolation leads to the depravity of the mind and self-deprecation, to the point where you don't feel like you can trust your wife enough to open up. So that's what my thing as a single guy is. It's easy when you're single to think that there's certain things that you don't need to work on. and that I'll just take care of this when I get married. I'll end this porn addiction when I get married, or I'll end this addiction. Everything that you take, because porn at its core is performance based. So if I take porn into a relationship, into a marriage, then I'm taking that performance and placating that and pushing that on my spouse to where it's no longer about intimacy and connection. It's about performance. And then she becomes an object of my desire instead of an object of my affection and intimacy, right? So when it comes to your isolation that you went through, we can all learn from it now is, men, have brothers around you that can call you out and call you to a higher standard and say, hey, man, I hear what you're going through, but like, you might be in the mud right now, but let's pull you out, because there's always going to be those moments and seasons where you feel like nobody understands. Like nobody gets what I'm going through. The reality is there's men all around you that are struggling in their marriages. Right? And from a woman's perspective, did you have women around you at that time that you could go to and talk things through other than just immediate family? Because let's be real, if you're living with your family and you're just doing life so often, it can be a little bit scary to go to them and talk to them about deep things in your marriage.
So I have this thing where I have deep respect for my spouse. So I am very selective with whom I speak with about our issues. Like, I know that there's this culture of, wives or husbands that will just drink and complain about their marriage, and they talk crap and just absolute garbage of their spouse with each other as a form of bonding. I've seen it between
so many other people.
It just, I can't like that. You will, as women, like I cannot bond with that. You will never be able to bond with me through that. Like, it literally just makes my skin crawl, because it's like your spouse trusts you. Like, you are the closest person to them, and the fact that you can throw very intimate details about your spouse for everyone to gossip about.
Yeah.
I honestly don't care what anybody thinks of me. I just think that's wrong.
Yeah,
if you find joy in that, that's cool. You do you, but that's not for me. So for me, when I went through that situation, it was a little hard because I would talk to my sister sometimes. But interestingly enough, the person that I talked to the most in this case was actually your mom. And if you
didn't know that?
Your mama.
And the thing is, if you've ever had the privilege and the honor and the joy of meeting their mom.
Why do you think our eyes glow so much?
We actually have our dad's eyes, but
both your parents are incredible.
Deep blue eyes.
They're amazing.
I think of them as my second mom and dad. They're like the most beautiful people.
We'll have them on the
met.
podcast sometime, eh?
Yeah, they should.
Wilson parents.
But no, like his mom I hit the jackpot, not just with a wonderful man, but I never had to experience that stereotype of the evil,
That's rare though. You marry the family.
The mother-in-law who's always on her son's side. Like, no, like she's one of the most mature, more like emotionally intelligent and aware people I've ever met. That when I was going this with you, so my parents were and still are living in Mexico at the time. So I didn't feel like I could go to them because they weren't here to see the whole situation. And I didn't want to stain the image they had of my husband, because that wasn't you. That wasn't the real you. You were going through something. So the only person I felt safe to go to, that I could be open and vulnerable and honest without disrespecting you and without just sharing with the world your weaknesses and your vulnerabilities, was your mom. And she was such a beautiful and incredible support to me. Like, there were times that I would just like be like, "Are you home?" Like, I'm in the neighborhood. And she would just, and normally you don't want to do that with anybody, but she was so gracious and be like, "Yeah, I'm home." And she usually knew if I was like around or ask or call her that something was going on. And she was an amazing support to me. And she gave me so much wisdom, that your parents have been married for what, 30 some years, 40 some years?
45.
Like, and they have an incredible relationship. So I had a lot of wisdom from them. So the people that I normally talk to, was my sister, your mom. I had a couple of my friends that sometimes I would share some things with, but I would never go into detail.
A destruction of character.
Yeah, because I just, like, you're my husband, you know, you're my best friend and I love you. And the idea of you doing that to me, like the idea of you talking about my weaknesses and everything that's like wrong with me with your guy friends, like completely like was like just the thought was like, you know, heartbreaking to me. So I couldn't do that to you. So it was hard for me to just be very open to talk to people about that.
Yeah, a disclaimer of, and I agree with you, is when you have brothers around you, let's say you go out to a cabin for a weekend with them and they're like, hey man, we just need to go away and talk about things.
Choose your brothers wisely. And that's what I was saying.
And it's never a vomit fest either. Yeah. Where you discredit your spouse's integrity or you talk down about them. It's easy enough to do that because that's the natural outlier or the natural thing that people go to is, I have an issue with this person, so therefore I'm going to do something that's going to hurt them to make myself feel better. It's like a natural self-justifier or justification of emotions or feelings, instead of saying, this is how I'm feeling right now. Guys, like, what's your experience? Like, help me to understand what I should do, or pray with your guy friends. If you don't believe in God, I encourage you to. But there are plenty of men out there that are strong men in your community that need you just as much as you need them, not in a self-deprecating, I'm going to vomit about my wife or to them, more of, let's do things that make me a strong man.
Yeah.
Let's go work out. Let's go on a walk through nature. Let's sit around a fire. Let's go shoot some guns. Whatever you think a masculine thing to do is, those are things that are not being preached, because you can give all this really good self-help talk advice online until, rubber meets the road and you feel alone and you're wanting to click a button on your phone to watch some porn. It's very easy to not reach out to those men around you, because the easier choice is to not be vulnerable and not to be real, and just to hide within yourself, because that's what ultimately this society wants you to do, is to become so emotionally withdrawn that you become numb to your own experience. And that is the biggest killer of masculinity, testosterone, and I can't speak on behalf of marriages, but it's what I've seen a lot of marriages fail.
Well, it's
why people have affairs, why people go out and sleep.
For example, we have a couple of our best friends that we've been, best friends with for like 9, almost 10 years, almost the 10 years of our marriage. And they also had similar experiences, and sometimes, my best friend and I, shout out to Michelle, we sometimes would cry with each other about different things we were going through, but it was never in a way that would be us sitting there just, gossip fest about all the terrible, awful things.
Nothing good comes from those.
No,
things
it was
anyway.
always I'm experiencing this, and we could be open and vulnerable, because we need that. Sometimes as women, we will talk more than men do. That is true. But doing so in a way that offers not only a shoulder to cry on, but also a friend that is there to build you up. Because you always have to think about the kind of friends you have, because there's always those friends that are amazing, that are there for you in the hard times. But then when you can't share your wins with them, when they're not there when you're winning, only there when you're suffering, those are interesting friends to go through. And that, as a man, I think that it really matters the group of brothers that you surround yourself with, because if you're surrounded with men who, let's say that they're driven and they're all like, yes, let's go. And that's amazing. They're super cool, but they're extremely toxic when it comes to relationship with women. If you're having a hard time in your marriage and you're listening to your toxic friends and how they talk about women, you're going to end up adapting some of those mindsets and bringing them home. Likewise with women. If I surround myself with women who are consistently talking down about their men and men suck and they're this and that and why'd I get married and all these different awful things. When I was going through what we were going through, if I had surrounded myself with people like that, I have plenty of reasons to be like, you're right. And, just it fuels up. In a one hand, you feel validated because you're going through something really painful.
Justice.
Right. But the thing is that misery loves company. And on the one hand, you find that relatability comforting because you feel like you're not alone in that pain. But if you don't watch out, if you don't watch your heart, like just be intentional and what are you feeding yourself with, that misery becomes like a hamster wheel you can get out of.
Yeah, one of the most important things for men and women is to never stop honoring your spouse.
Yes.
Because if you go through the most difficult things, you can go through, I mean, we've gone through some really challenging things, but I don't think people that have been around us for either of us can say that we intentionally kept dishonoring the other, because we kept speaking life into a situation. And if we went through something extremely difficult, we would confide in our close friends, but it was more from a perspective of how can I help change the situation?
Like pray for me. Do you have any, what could I say to my spouse? Because this is what we're going through and I feel like I hit a wall. What would you do? Or I'm there for you, or like, please, like there's a difference between going to friends because you actually need help, like a shoulder to cry on, but you need that comfort and that help and that advice, versus going to friends just to release all the crap you're thinking of because you're angry.
Exactly.
You know, and I feel like thinking back in all the years that we've been married, like we have gone through enough things that really we could have walked away from each other. We had plenty of reasons, and you've seen a lot of what we went through, and we have all these people that are like, oh, you guys are like a movie, and you guys are like unicorns, and
because they don't see behind the scenes,
right? But the thing is, like, yes, we work hard at getting there, and we were blessed in getting to meet each other as early as we did. That is true, but what keeps you there? What allows you to continue to water your grass, per se? You know, and I think that's what changed everything for us.
I mean, just looking at her, I mean, Isaac, you might need to leave the room. Just let's transition a little bit.
This is my house.
She's absolutely beautiful. Just look at her. Just look at her. She's absolutely incredible. You're the most beautiful
But I have
woman.
Stigmatism, and without my glasses, my eyes are starting to get a little tired. So if you see me giving him like sleepy eyes, it's because of my
Mexican,
glasses.
not Asian. All right. So, what is toxic masculinity to you?
Ooh.
Your quick TED talk, because I have a follow up with that. So let's pound it out.
Whew, that's a loaded question.
Not literally.
Not literally.
Just had to say that. For all you listeners out there,
Isaac used to be in the third wheel.
If you have any kids, that was not for them.
Yes, hide your kids, hide your wives.
Don't hide your wife too long; she'll leave you.
So, what is toxic masculinity to you? Like, what does a man do that either society or even us have told people?
Is there such a thing as toxic masculinity?
Yeah,
Some people say either you're toxic or you're not.
Well, I would say that there's toxicity and then there's masculinity, because it is men who are not masculine, who are weak-minded in the way they see the world, as in, for example, going back to performance-based value. If they truly believe that their value is based on their performance and what they have to, do all these things, then they are going to see the same in terms of women. And that's why you have this whole movement of, like, go to the gym and make money and blah, blah, blah. But like, but women, like, make sure you look for this type of woman. And if she's not specifically the type of woman, then she's for the streets. Like, it devalues a person down to performance. And when you're talking about toxicity, usually for me, what I think when I think of a toxic man, I don't want to call it toxic masculinity, because I personally, I think that a man who is masculine, who is strong in his masculinity, would be a healthy man who understands the what he's supposed to be and the value that women offer, or the value that women have. So weak-minded men for me are men who are so afraid of what the world would think of them if they don't have certain things, if they don't achieve certain things. Therefore, they have to put up a persona who isn't them. They have to pretend to be this guy in order to gain favor, women or money or whatever. But in the inside, they couldn't be the most. They're a completely different person. So what that does is when you put up masks, everything in your life changes. If you're trying to live up to a mask, That's who the people see. That's who women see. That's who society sees. And so, but you can only keep the mask up for so long. And so the problem is, if the guy is concerned with keeping up this mask, if he's more afraid of keeping up that mask, that's going to reflect in how he treats women and how he treats children.
That's good. Piggybacking off that. Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Do you think men are the head of the house, or do you think it's a 50-50 partnership in responsibility, or do you think that men and women have different roles? Whew. The hot seat.
That is a...
The entire marriage is on the line right now.
No, I think, so it's a very controversial topic because people have all kinds of opinions on it. I believe we both have the same value. I believe we both, are an equal strength to the relationship and to the household. We both are needed and we both are useful, and we both, are that have the things that we were created to do together. Like, we complement each other in the areas that men are strong with, or that women are strong with. Like, in the areas that we're weak, we complement each other. And that where one is strong, the other one is weak. They can complement each other. Now, as I've said before, we are people of faith. We love the Lord, and based on what the Bible teaches and saying that the man is the head of the household, I do believe in submitting to my husband. And
I love you.
That alone, how controversial that is.
Oh, I know.
You have to submit to your husband.
Ooh,
it's not even that you have to; it's that you get to. It's not that's what when people think of submit, they think of this. It's a nasty term that's about control,
yeah,
slave.
Like you're a slave.
When you think of Linda, of the word submit to your husband, what's the first thoughts that come into your head?
Well, I feel like the word submission has been twisted to mean something else, something that it isn't. Like, for me, the word submission doesn't mean slavery. It doesn't mean like control and like,
underneath,
below, subservient, or losing of your value or your individuality or whatever. For me, submission is this mutual deep respect that we have for each other. But I also understand that if, push comes to shove, is that the expression?
Yeah. Or if the house is on fire.
Or if the house is on fire, or something is happening, like, I will do everything in my power to figure out and help and go and things, because I'm a go-getter. I've never been and this is what's interesting about the question they asked me. Even though I have traditional values, a lot of people in my culture, that we are actually a lot more traditional than people realize. I'm actually a very modern woman by a lot of standards. Since I was a kid, and I do want to preface this before I answer that question. Since I was a kid, my dad always instilled education in me, and like following a career, and just being a very successful career woman. And my mom wanted to teach me all these life skills that housewives usually have. And she wanted to teach me how to cook and how to do this and how to do that. And it was so funny because my parents would sometimes argue about, she wanted to teach me how to cook, and my dad would be like, no, she needs to go do her homework because she's going to have a career and blah, blah. And it was so funny because when you're young, you're like, yeah, I don't have to learn all those things. I'm just going to have a career or whatever. But learning how to do those things, you're still going to have to do them, whether you're married or not. You're still going to have to cook and clean for yourself. But the difference is you get to do it with somebody else. And so I've always been this go-getter person that, I started my own business. Anything I want, I fight for it to go get it. I've never been that person that just, I'm going to let somebody take care of me and I will do nothing and stay home, even though, I have a lot of respect for whoever decides to do that. That's your life. So with that being said, that's what's interesting about our relationship, is that I do believe in submission to my husband simply because that's the faith that we believe in, and that's what the word says. But it's never been something where you tell me, well, I'm the man and therefore I'm making this decision and this is how it's going to be. No, like, we make our decisions together. We always have. You always talk to me. You always let me feel heard. You always hear me out. You always take my thoughts into consideration. And that's something that I deeply love about you and respect about you, that you've never made me feel like what I have to say or bring to the table is just, okay, whatever. Thanks for letting me know. But it's just one of those things where we always talk together about everything. But when it comes to very big, important decisions, there are things at play that you're taking care of that I don't, that will influence our entire lives.
Yeah, like the other day, you actually said to me, because again, you see a lot of our videos and stuff I'm putting out, and you said, "I'm so glad I don't have to be in charge of the finances." Like, you help bring in some money. So
I mean, I did. Back at that year.
No, that year specifically. But you're saying
And
like
that was
right
the year
now,
from hell.
That was the year from hell.
Because right now you bring in some money through your photography business, but I bring in the majority of our income. And you looked at me and you're like, "Babe, thank you so much for everything you do. I'm so glad I don't have to be the person in charge of all that." And you're so honoring in the way. And again, it comes down to a man being on his purpose and taking care of his woman. Because if you're not, that's when the woman's going to feel uneasy. Yeah. But when I work from home sometimes, I'll just be sitting in bed editing all day for the videos you guys get to enjoy. And you'll just bring me coffee every morning. And you'll bring me lunch, and you'll be like, and you'll say, "I'm so proud of you for what you're doing. You're going after your dreams," because creating content online and Isaac and I putting ourselves out there, like, this is a long-term play, and we're going strong with it. But you made me feel so loved, and you're like, "Babe, thank you for what you do." And so that's when we're talking about submission. It's not kneeling before and worshiping the other. It's honoring the other. Yeah. It's you honor me, but what does the Bible also
serving each other? Yeah. And for those of you that aren't religious or anything, you probably have seen when people wash each other's feet at their weddings and stuff like that. The symbolism of that is we serve each other and
servant leadership.
Leadership. Like, I take initiative, and obviously we didn't start with this. Like, we had to learn how to get there for a healthy marriage. We went through a lot of hiccups and a lot of arguments and a lot of fights, because when you felt you couldn't trust me because you were going through that, I thought I got to a place where I couldn't trust you because I felt like I couldn't rely on you. And when we can't trust each other, I'm not going to want to submit to you or serve you because I can't trust your leadership. And if I can't trust your leadership, I feel like I have to take things over. And if you remember, you used to even say, like, "What happened to you? You used to be so, like, happy-go-lucky and so whatever, and now you're all stressed out all the time, and that's because at the time I didn't feel safe with the way you were leading our lives. So I had to step up and I had to make decisions, and that rubbed off on you the wrong way, because I would be like, "Hey, did you finish this stuff for the client? Hey, did you do this and that?" It was almost like I was...
It was a horrible situation
it was an awful
between us.
Situation.
And this is why I'm challenging men.
Yeah.
So important. If your wife, if your girlfriend is starting to feel antsy and not feel confident in your leadership and who you are as a man, instead of bickering at them, look inward.
She's nagging at me.
Look inward. Say, have I done what is my responsibility? And even going back to the, if the push comes to shove, I've often said, if someone broke into our house with a gun or a knife or whatever it is, right? Yeah. That is my responsibility as the man of our relationship to fight off that person. I want you and our child to hide in a closet. If I go down, then I want you to have a knife and you go at it. But yes, could you help me maybe? Yes, but if you were to get harmed in that situation, in me trying to fight off the person, then I would never be able to forgive myself as a man. So as a man, my job is to provide and protect. And that's the beauty of our relationship, is you aren't just a stay-at-home mom, but you do that so well while also having your business. And I've supported you through that, because I don't want
and lots of coffee.
Yeah, lots of coffee. Because again, everybody, just so you know, she is one of the greatest photographers ever. So we'll have your link to your Instagram below,
biased husband,
and also your website. Check out her content.
Enough sappiness.
It's amazing. No, check out her photography stuff. It's great.
No.
All right, I agree 100%. Linda's photography business is fantastic, and that will be below for everybody to watch.
Thank you.
And see, and book her for all your stuff. If you want to fly her out to California and be on a Riviera somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
For me, what I got from what you just said, Linda, is I think it's pretty profound, and that's ultimately what sets our podcast or our social media, whatever we're doing here as the Wilson Brothers, apart from a lot of these other channels, is true masculinity is servant leadership.
Yep.
True masculinity is laying your life down every single day for your partner, not in a way that's domineering, abusive, or a power struggle. I think that's what a lot of modern day relationships that I've seen in the dating culture is. It's always a power struggle to figure out who's going to be the head and who's going to be the tail. And that's not the point, man. Is your wife submitting to you is a form of servant leadership.
Yes.
And you submitting to your wife is a form of servant leadership, but there are different roles in the relationship that complement each other, not from a hierarchical standpoint of the man's up here and the woman's down here. Because when I have kids one day and I get married, God willing, if I have daughters, for example, I want my daughters to be trained in martial arts or jiu-jitsu just as much as I want my sons to be trained, right?
Same.
So if push comes to shove, let's say I'm not home and I'm out working and somebody breaks into the home, I want my wife and daughter to be able to kick their tail.
I want them to if they can,
and I want them to be armed up. And so it's not saying that
I've never had to use it. But I learned, with self-defense, I learned how to stab somebody if they come in my home. So
let's freaking go.
So that's the differentiator really is that we're not saying that women can't do it. Women absolutely have every right and privilege to do it just as much as men, but there are different anatomy or biological differences in how men and women operate, from the way your brain works to the way you make decisions to how physically strong you are and how you're able to then take on a potential, aggressor in your home. So servant leadership is so not talked about in today's society. It's not a focal point of a marriage or a relationship, because if I spend every part of my waking hours trying to serve my partner and my spouse, then I'm becoming a better man. And I'm also laying up a foundation to where she will ultimately want to respect me.
It's true.
And want to have me lead. And it's not you just have to fall in line, woman. You just have to fall in line. You hear that on podcasts all the time. Just fall in line. I'm not slapping the booty. Okay?
Or have you seen the Sean Connery thing? Sometimes you just got to give her a little slap.
Well, yeah, you got to give her a little slap. That is, I think, the modern dating world. The modern dating world is so messed up because men think that they have to overcompensate and that it's masculine to push a woman down, to talk down to the woman. I'm the man, woman.
That is weakness.
I'm the
man.
man.
Is a weak man.
That's not servant leadership.
Nope. And that's the thing, though. Like I will, for example, so there was, there's always going to be crap hits the fan, like they say. When things are in the worst place, that's when you see people's true character. You see the runners. And you see those who fight.
Fight or flight,
right? And again, depending, this isn't to shame anyone. It's just to put things in perspective. Like, if you were to experience something where your family's life was on the line, what kind of person do you think you would be? What kind of man do you think you would be? And, or woman, in that sense. Because, again, I'm a go-getter. I'm a very independent Latina. And one of the things that we had to figure out when we got married, because first you get married, now you have to learn how to be married and stay married. And it comes back to watering your grass. And so when things fall apart, the person that you truly are is the sum of all the seeds that you planted, throughout the years and throughout the seasons. And I feel like it's so important. We were talking about servanthood and the things that you are planting. So many women and men, when they're married or when they're dating towards marriage or whatever, they feel like, I'm not going to do this for them because they should be doing that for me. They didn't do that for me. Why should I do it for them? And there's this whole give and take thing, which true, it is give and take in the grand scheme of things. But it's all about, who are you? What kind of person are you? It's, for example, for me personally, I don't follow the whole respect is earned mentality, because that would imply that that person has no value to me unless they can prove themselves to me. Who am I to decide that? They have the same value I do. And so I know that people will disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But what I follow is I respect everyone equally. And they have the opportunity to lose my respect with their actions.
There was a video that you actually showed me. This was about a month or two ago. It was a woman that was on a platform, not a platform, but like on a stage talking. And she said the whole thing that people are saying now, that respect is earned when it comes to the woman respecting the man.
Right.
That's so toxic, because imagine if the man said to the woman, you have to earn my love.
Right.
Even when you've been together for a while, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously in the beginning, you kind of have to earn each other's love.
Yeah,
but once you're in a committed marriage or relationship, if I woke up every day and I'm like, you haven't earned my love today. Could you imagine how as a woman that would feel? And it's the same thing with that. If every day you woke up and was like, today you haven't earned my respect, then that's saying that you have to prove yourself worthy every single day, when it's a committed relationship is not about that. It's that we are partners for life, going after the same stuff, pursuing life together. And when one person's falling down some, the other can pick them up. And that is a relationship. And the problem is that sometimes if somebody falls down, the other person gets on top of them. It was like, why aren't you doing this? And just shoves them down further, instead of realizing you have to work together in order to.
Here's the biggest thing. When it comes to long-term relationships and marriage, I understand some people don't believe in marriage, but they're in committed relationships or whatever, right? But when it comes to long-term committed relationships, in our case, marriage, it's a mirror. Marriage is a mirror, and it shows you all the ways that you never knew how selfish you were.
So true.
Exposes your selfishness.
It really does. It exposes who you are as a person. And because somebody finally is that close to you that they can see all the things that you couldn't see before about yourself.
I think that's why Andrew Tate's not married.
Probably.
He doesn't fully believe in it, but
Why? But the thing is, why doesn't he believe in it? Think about it.
Because
why do all these high value men that go on these podcasts and spout their exploits of sleeping around with multiple women, if you were truly a man and you had a servant leadership mentality and you had that, what you guys just talked about, you would want a committed partner. But the problem is you have a mirror.
But you know what he says,
here's the thing, though.
It exposes things in you.
And I was going to say, well, Andrew Tate actually talks about that on the George Janko recent, I think it was part 2. Because George Janko, I think, asked him, why don't you want to get married necessarily? And he said, well, he wants to have as many kids as possible, and he can't do that with one woman. He said he wants to literally have like 25 kids.
Monogamy versus polyamorous relationships in Islam, it promotes. It doesn't promote it, but it's okay in that religion to have multiple wives and to
But can you imagine what that'll do to their children, though?
So
not
it'd be so
their
confusing.
They won't have their father around. They'll just have
because his father wasn't around.
Person, right?
Tate's father wasn't around. He was in the U.S. when Tate was barely making it with his mom back over.
But he
overseas.
says he had the best father in the world.
Yeah, because it's.
You see, I've seen some interviews. I have, he's not my favorite person, but he does have some good points here and there about men and women and all that. But you know what? When I see men who don't want to commit to women, who are just, sleeping around, high value men, the whole thing, high body count, anything, I don't see, when I look at them, what I see is a broken man. I don't see a toxic guy who is who and like he's terrible. No, I see someone who at one point loved someone so dearly or believed something and that girl broke their heart, or that situation or their home or whatever environment they grew up with didn't teach them what a healthy relationship was, whatever it was. We are all the sums of our choices and the choices of those that had to take care of us, right? We obviously become our own people and we have to make our own choices. I don't believe we are victims of our situations, but we can be products of it, and it's up to us to choose to either get out of that or continue the cycle. And so when I think of men like Tate, I saw the interview where he was being interviewed by the psychologist, and I was mind blown by the level of self. Like, he had built his walls so solid that he had a logical explanation for absolutely everything, that it couldn't pierce him.
He's a master deflector.
Yeah, it's a master deflector. But when in every answer he gave, you can see, like, if you have any level of emotional intelligence, you can see a seriously broken man who has been so hurt and so wounded that has built giant, China walls around himself. And as someone who's mastered the art of escapism when it comes to pain, because I've always was the person, I always was a strong person. Nobody had ever had to worry about me. No one had to ever ask me how I was, because I always look happy and the whole time. And that's because I was always a strong person who knew how to deal with my problems, aka not deal with them, and just rationalize the problem so that I could be okay. So I would come up with explanations as to why certain things happen, or I would try to convince myself, well, this happened because A, B, and C. And that would allow me to have a semblance of a normal life despite going through a lot of pain in my life. Woman. Yeah, well, and I'm talking even outside of our marriage. I'm talking about, some traumas, childhood traumas, all these awful things that we've been through. I was that person that I would learn how to rationalize something. I would either completely block it out and not deal with it, or I would rationalize it in a way that would make sense and find the silver lining of something, it had to happen because then.
You're like Joy from Inside Out.
Oh, that movie broke my heart. Yeah. Like, it broke me. It made me bawl my eyes out in the theaters. Like, there's, a few kids, and we went to sit in the theater, and I'm just like, just weeping because that movie. Oh my gosh,
highly recommend. It's a good film.
Oh, Inside Out. I've seen that movie like 20 times, and it makes me cry every time.
Even as men, you can watch it. It's okay.
Yes.
You're not going to be any more less masculine.
But the reason I brought that up is because his interview, it was interesting. It was so crazy that I could find some level of relatability to someone that is so completely different planet opposite from who I am, in the sense of learning how to rationalize something so it doesn't hurt you. And so going back to what you were talking about and what I was talking about men who don't see value in marriage and don't see value in finding a good woman and marrying them because they truly believe they don't exist. These are people that legit have been hurt so badly, whether by parents or family or trauma or by a significant other, that they truly believe that is not possible, that it doesn't exist. And they just have closed themselves down to the possibility of finding somebody like that.
You can find somebody out there. You have to make sure you work on yourself, and you have to have realistic expectations in what you actually want, because everybody expects the world. I mean, granted, I had to pursue you for 2 years. You're like everything I ever wanted, but it took hard work. I didn't just open the door and you're like, hey, I'm Linda, I'm from Mexico, love me. Like, that's not what happened.
I'm from Mexico.
That wasn't what happened. It took perseverance. It took learning you, actually pursuing you and finding value in you.
But that's the point. You saw the value in me enough for you to put yourself out there, despite being afraid of me rejecting you. And that's what made me look at you. At the time, you were just my best friend, and I was interested in somebody else. But because you were brave and you showed me who you were by putting yourself out there, despite that I could say no to you. And for example, in practical terms, we were talking earlier about, who pays for the first date or for whatever, stuff like that. We were talking about stuff like that. And I've heard from, people dating today, yourself included, sometimes what some guys will do is like, oh, we should do halfsies. Or
Dutch.
She does. Or
go
she
Dutch.
Said, go Dutch. Well, yeah, whatever.
Dutch is halfsies.
That's what it means? Okay, that's funny. And then, or the girl thinks halfsies because then that would imply
empower them.
Well, no, it's not about empowerment. Sometimes it's at things of safety, because you don't know. I've heard this from some girls. Like some guys, when they pay fully, then the girl thinks that the guy's gonna feel entitled to something because they
like she has
pay
to put
for
out.
it.
Then he's not a good man.
Exactly.
It's very simple.
Exactly. And so when we were talking about who's gonna pay for the first date and all that, I was reminded about the person you were. And I was thinking, well, this isn't about when you're deciding, oh, I should only do this because I don't know if she's going to keep going out with me or not. That says a lot about you as a person.
It's a mirror.
And that's why I brought up the whole respect thing is earned versus I respect everyone equally. My actions have to reflect who I am as a person. I shouldn't have to act based on how you act. I'm going to act how I am, how I'm going to act, because that is who I am. And if you act in a way that I don't agree with, if I'm strong in who I am, that shouldn't affect my behavior. And so in terms of dating, if you want to be a man who is the provider who is the strong, man and whatever, then you should be okay with paying for the date.
I think
going
men,
out
I think
there.
men should pay.
Well, yeah, 100%. And you know why? And I'm not looking at it.
Well, it's not because, in my opinion, men have to.
It's a little bug flying around.
Got it. No, for me,
you did?
Yeah, for Mr. Miyagi.
For me, men should pay, and the reason is.
Sorry.
For me, men should pay, and it's very simple. Mm-hmm. It's not because you're the man and you're going to do it. It's it's a privilege for us.
Yeah.
And it's,
servant
and we
leadership.
should never we should never make the woman feel uncomfortable in a situation where she has to wonder, because a good woman naturally will be like, "Oh, let me help out." Like for a long time, again, we were like 18 or 19, we started dating. You'd
19,
be like,
we started dating 19.
Yeah, you're like, I can help. And I said, babe, I got you. And it's not, I'm not asserting my dominance over you. It is
I never felt that way from
it
you.
is my honor to take care of you, to take you on a date. I love doing it.
And I felt so special. I was like,
but
hey, you had like this, you worked at Starbucks at the time.
Yep.
And you were working, and you were still in school. So for me, the fact that you were, taking money out of your job to pay for something. I just know it just makes you, as a girl, it just makes you feel special, and it doesn't take away from the fact that you can pay, that you are able to, you're
it's
a go-getter girl, you're a
you.
boss girl.
It's my way of loving you.
Yeah.
This is what I see in it. When you go out with a woman, a lot of women, unfortunately, they want a traditional masculine man, but then won't allow the man to do traditionally masculine things, right? So if I'm traditionally masculine, right, and I want to, in servant leadership, show you that, hey, I got this, but you won't let me get it, but you want me to do all of the things that are masculine and strong and protecting and providing, it sets up a precedent of distrust, where can I actually walk in that essence of being masculine around you for fear of you think that you're not good enough or that you can get it yourself. A guy paying for your date is not a plight on your womanhood.
No.
It's not a plight on you being a strong, independent, boss babe of a woman. We're just saying, no, but I got this, because this is a foreshadowing of our future relationship, of us going towards marriage, because I believe that dating should be for marriage.
Yeah, like if
you want to get married,
if you're looking
date.
for, and that's the thing though, again, unfortunately in today's culture, from what we've observed and what we've heard, obviously, because we've been out of the market for so long, so you can correct
You're
us.
Lucky.
No, trust me, sometimes we'll look at each other and I was like, I don't know what I would do in today's
I
dating
was
world.
like,
no idea.
I was like, we're gonna have to work
I
on
was
our
like, babe,
issues.
I'm never going to cheat on you. Because the idea of being out in the dating world terrifies the heck out of me.
You know, Bert Kreischer, I'm the machine.
Yeah.
He's like when a woman comes up to him on tour and they're like hitting on him, he's like, I do not cheat on my wife. He just stands up. I do not cheat on my wife. I saw that.
No,
he doesn't even know if they're hitting on him. He just goes, I don't cheat on my wife. The machine.
I think, again, going back to having the confidence of who you are. Like, I don't need a man to kneel down in order for me to stand up. Like, I know my value. I know that I'm powerful. I know where I stand. I know that I can get stuff for myself because I've done it before and I can do it now. Like, my husband knows me. Like, I'm, again, for the 10th time, I'm a go-getter. Him doing things for me and paying things for me and doing that stuff for me doesn't take away from the fact that I can do those things for myself. What it shows me, though, is the kind of man he is. It shows me that he is willing to, make me feel special, that I don't have to do those things, even though I can.
Well, it brings peace to you as well. Like, you would imagine if I was a simp, man that just had no conviction, no drive, and I expected you to pay all the bills.
We would not be together.
That pressure on you, you could do it.
I could.
Because you're a very strong woman.
And I did.
And you have done it.
Yeah.
You could tap into that masculine energy for sure on your own.
But you've told me that you're so grateful you don't have to.
Yeah.
I will go out into the world and suffer daily and grind, grind, and make sure that we're taken care of so that you can have peace in your life.
All right, let me give you an example. So I know this person, she's a therapist and she has kids, right? And she's a single mom. And she told me something fascinating. She said that when I separated from my husband, I went out into the world and I'm miserable trying to pay all the bills. Yeah. I'm miserable trying to put a roof over my kids' heads. It's not that I can't do it. She makes good money. She's fine in that sense. But she said she's going against her natural biology as a woman to have to do everything herself. It's not that she can't. It's not that she's incapable, right? That's where a lot of these red pill bros get it wrong, saying that women are incapable of doing this.
Don't get me
They're
started on those
absolutely
idiots.
capable, but it goes against your biological nature on your own to do it. She's crying out, like most of these women that tell me this are crying out, even in the comments, they're crying out for a good man.
They want a good man.
Not to make them feel less of a woman, but to have that protection, to have that man that can come in and provide so she can take a breather. Can you imagine trying to raise 2 or 3 kids by yourself as a single mom in today's world?
That's
It's almost impossible. I don't know how women do it.
Respect and honor and love to the you single moms
I can't
out there,
imagine.
because like we have a kid,
Even single dads.
and single dads. We have a family member who's an amazing single dad for many years,
Having to nurture the kids.
and he had to do the role of both mom and dad for most of his kids' lives, and it's so like we have deep respect for that, because it's incredible the sacrifice and the work you have to do to be 2 parents at once. So we're not in any way talking down on that. That takes a lot to step up
incredible.
to the plate as a single parent and do those things, or even as a single woman who's been married a while and now you have to go out into the world by yourself. Like we have family members that are in that journey, and they have succeeded, but they had a lot of work to get through there, and it's been so hard. And it's just one of those things where like we're all in different journeys, but it goes back to, who are you as a person? What do you value in yourself? Because what you value in yourself and how you present yourself and how you talk to people and what you do is going to attract the same kind of people, and it's going back to what we were talking about earlier about I'm trying to remember, you guys reacted to this woman who wanted a loyal thug. That's what the guy was saying, that she wanted a bad guy, but that he would be loyal and good and protective.
Oh yeah, she wanted a bad boy, because men are like traditional good men, or the nice guys. She said
the nice guys are evil. Like
the nice guys are boring, is what she said.
It's boring.
Because she wanted somebody that was exciting. But the truth is, when you've been together for a long time, that exciting goes out the door.
Well, here's the thing. And this is where pop culture and movies and Hollywood come into play, because they've duped everybody.
And pornography.
And pornography too. They paint you this picture of, you want the bad guy is interesting. The bad guy is the guy you want. The good guy is boring. The best friend, the guy that's been there for you and who's been loyal and respect you, who knows you and loves you for you. Mm-hmm. You don't want that guy. He's just your friend.
Boring.
He's boring. You want that other guy who is completely emotionally unavailable and is never going to respect you or want you the way this guy does. But you should go for him because he's more interesting and exciting. And like, they paint you this picture. Yep. But here's what they do too. They paint the friend or the good guy or whatever as this wimp who is there and who loves her, but like he's so insecure and whatever. But here's the reality of things. It's not that women want a bad boy, even though some women do want bad boys, so they express it so. It's that we want a man who is confident. We want a man who is confident in who he is, who knows what he wants, and who isn't afraid to go get it. And even if he is afraid, that he still puts himself out there to go get it.
That's the key.
That is the key, because
that's a bad boy right there.
Yeah, because they say nice guys finish last.
That's such
a lie, because it's not nice. I would say good, because nice for me, at least for me, I'm bilingual. At least for me, the word when someone say, "Oh, that's a nice person," like they're nice. They're kind, but niceties can be deceiving, right? But so we're talking about a good man who's confident and knows knows what he wants and isn't afraid to go get it. That guy's gonna be off the market like
and
this.
It's gonna make you want to jump his bones.
All right. Okay, all right.
But here's the thing, though. So let's go back to the whole toxic masculinity and pair it up with the with the bad guy persona that they paint you, right? You have all these shows or these movies where they romanticize the idea of the brooding bad boy, that was hurt and like he doesn't talk to anyone, but somehow she will like heal him and like, change him and fix him. And so you have all these women that are like looking at this, men who have zero interest in them, don't value them, don't see them for the amazing women they are. They just see them for their bodies and be like, I can fix him. And
Walk to Remember is not a realistic thing for many people.
No, The Notebook is even worse.
No, The Notebook is worse.
It's literally you cannot. Culture has celebrated toxicity within relationships,
Yes.
especially within movies, and then they parrot that back to women as this is what's healthy because he's a bad boy, like you said. But I can fix him and make him a house like a husband, basically. I want to turn the bad boy into a husband. The thing is, if a bad boy's toxic, there's some deeper issues going on there that will not come into a marriage. It's not going to naturally, sleep with him and then you marry him and he's all of a sudden going to become such a good man.
Yep.
That's just not how it works.
Here's the thing though. Okay, so obviously there's duality, right, in all of us. There's never going to be someone that is inherently evil, inherently good, and inherently, this way or that way. Like we all have those facets of life, right? We all have, all kinds of, attributes about our personalities that could, put us in one way or the other. The pendulum, as you say all the time. But the problem with these type of stories, because again, yes, people that are like, the bad boy or the bad girl or whatever, they're deserving of love. They're valuable human beings that deserve love. But there was something that happened along the way that made them get to be where they are, numb to a good person. They're blinded when they meet someone that could truly love them for them or whatever, because they've been so jaded and so hurt they don't see that. And so there's always a depth to people and to stories. So when you romanticize someone who by all definitions is a bad person, I'm not talking about just the guy who's like, like the heartthrob, the stereotype of bad. I'm talking an actual bad guy. Because they romanticize those a lot now.
Yeah,
the anti-hero, the movies that is now all focused on the anti-hero. And I love those movies because I love to hear, the backstories or whatever. But when you really do see the kind of people they are, and then they romanticize a woman, they want to love him for them and like fix them and all this stuff. But you see the gradual destruction that she goes through to try to be with that person. And at the end of the day, he never changed. If anything, sometimes he even got worse.
She had to change.
She had to change or she died or something crazy. So then he got even worse. It's like, it's this whole story arch, right? And again, like we all love those stories, we can get enthralled about, the bad guy and the girl who fixed him or like made him good. And, and then the vice versa, right? The good guy who, was able to change the bad girl into good. Like there's always this, because we all kind of yearn for connection, right? And we yearn for people that would deem themselves unlovable. They always, deep down, they do want to find somebody and they do want to be loved. But it goes back to what do you think about yourself? How much do you value yourself? Because if you don't value yourself as a man or as a woman, and you don't have respect for yourself, you're going to be okay with whoever comes along. You know what I mean? In the sense that you're going to be willing to change parts of who you are, values that you have, and, things that goals or you aspire to, because you're trying to appeal to that person. That seems too good to be true, and so there's just so many variables that play into that.
So babe, you are a woman that I got that's 1 out of a billion. I don't even think there's 7 like you in this world. So, well, there's less than 7 billion women, but I love you. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, the way the world's going, there could be 7 billion women.
I think there's 7 to 9 billion people in general.
But there's not 7 billion women. So I love you. Everyone just look at her. Just absolutely stunning. This is my wife. I love you more than life. Like you're my ride or die. And thank you for joining us. She does a lot of things behind the scenes of like inspiring me, giving me creative things, helps me with color correction. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. So Isaac and I, we love you. Thank you for all your help. We will have her on again.
I love you
Just
both.
comment "Go Linda" below.
And also, guys, write in the comments, what are your thoughts on these different topics? What does modern dating culture look like to you?
Masculinity.
What is masculinity in today's society? Give us your thoughts and feedbacks, and also let us know where you're watching from. Comment below, and we will definitely love to hear your comments and
All right,
feedback.
don't forget to subscribe. But babe, I love you. We'll see y'all later.
Peace.